The planet Valcor 9 was not for the faint-hearted. Its surface was a swirling chaos of jagged mountains, dense jungles, and violent storms that could tear through even the strongest buildings. Only humans, toughened by generations of survival, could endure such a world. They had learned to live where others would perish, to move silently through deadly terrain, and to see opportunity where others saw only danger. On Valcor 9, humans were not just inhabitants, they were apex survivors, feared and respected throughout the galaxy for their adaptability. Captain Rhea Corvin stood on the observation deck of the starship Iron Vulture, her eyes scanning the storm-swept horizon. She was a veteran of countless dangerous missions, her sharp mind and steady hands a testament to years of survival on death worlds like this one. Behind her, the crew prepared for another routine patrol, checking weapons, survival suits, and scanners. Though the planet's storms were relentless, this was nothing new for humans who had grown up thriving in such extremes. Then the calm was shattered by a sudden, urgent signal. It was unlike anything Rhea had heard before, an alien distress call, fragmented and chaotic, screaming through space in a way that made her stomach tighten. Her fingers flew over the console, isolating the signal, analyzing its source. It was coming from a planet on the outer rim, Zerathis, a world that had long been considered out of reach for most species. "Captain," said Lieutenant Jarek Sloan, a tall human with quick reflexes and an analytical mind. "This is some kind of SOS. It's alien. I can barely make sense of it. Whoever is sending this, they're terrified." Rhea's eyes narrowed. Humans had faced countless dangers, from hostile alien species to the deadliest storms in known space. But there was something about this signal that made the hairs on her arms rise. It carried fear so raw, so desperate that it was almost tangible. "Plot a course," she said firmly. "We respond. Whoever's out there needs help, and I don't leave anyone behind if I can help it." The rest of the crew exchanged glances. The decision was not without risk. Zerathis was known for extreme wildlife and an unpredictable environment. But Rhea's reputation as a commander who could handle the impossible reassured them. Humans, after all, were the galaxy's most adaptable species. Deathworlders like them thrived where others fell. As the Iron Vulture prepared to jump into hyperspace, Rhea studied the planet's reports. Zerathis was vast, with jagged crystal forests, floating mountains, and oceans that glowed with phosphorescent light. Its wildlife had evolved in strange, often terrifying ways. And yet the source of the SOS was not a human. It was an alien species, fragile and unprepared for survival in the harshest conditions. By the time the starship emerged from hyperspace, Zerathis sprawled beneath them like a living, breathing entity. The landscape was surreal. Mountains floated above glowing forests. Rivers of liquid light wound between crystalline plains, and storms danced unpredictably in the sky. Rhea could feel the pulse of the planet through her ship, a warning whispered to those who dared to tread on its surface. The distress signal had grown clearer as they approached, revealing the alien's voice. It was faint, high-pitched, trembling with fear. Lieutenant Sloan translated as best as he could, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "They call themselves the Krill," he said. "They're fragile. Their species. They're small, translucent, and physically weak. But their technology is advanced. They've never faced something like this. Whatever is attacking them, it's overwhelming." Rhea felt a mix of concern and resolve. Humans were strong not just in body but in spirit. This was their moment. The Krill may have never faced physical danger, but humans thrived in it. Their ability to adapt, think, and endure had earned them a reputation across galaxies. And now, that same human resilience would be their greatest gift to the Krill. The Iron Vulture descended through the planet's thick atmosphere. Turbulence rocked the ship. Lightning flashed across the sky, and the crew gritted their teeth against the violent winds. Valcor 9 had storms, yes, but Zerathis was another level entirely. It was a crucible that would test even the toughest humans. When the ship finally touched down, the landscape was more terrifying up close. Towering crystal trees reflected stormlight in dazzling patterns. Strange creatures scuttled across the glowing ground, retreating at the sight of the humans. And in the distance, the faint outlines of the Krill could be seen, huddled together, trembling. The Krill were unlike any species Rhea had encountered. Their translucent bodies glimmered faintly in the dim light, their limbs delicate but precise. They looked fragile, vulnerable in every sense, but their eyes told a story of intelligence, culture, and desperation. They had survived this long with their technology, but nature and whatever predator haunted them had proven far too cunning. Rhea stepped off the ship, boots crunching against the strange, glowing soil. The krill flinched at her presence, fear mingled with awe. She raised her hands in a gesture of peace. "We're here to help," she said. Her voice was calm, firm, carrying the confidence humans were known for. "Tell us what's happening." A krill named Letha approached cautiously. Her translucent form shimmered in the stormlight. It hunts us," she whispered. "We don't know how. It changes, adapts. Our weapons fail. Our cities, destroyed. We cannot stop it." Rhea's eyes narrowed. Humans had faced monsters before. Creatures thought impossible to kill. They had survived Deathworlds, navigated predators, and endured environments that could strip flesh from bone. And yet, listening to Letha, she realized this threat would challenge them in ways even humans might not expect. "We'll need to see it for ourselves," Rhea said. "Show us where it attacked." "Every detail helps." The krill hesitated, fear evident in their every movement. But they led the humans toward the ruins of a city, where buildings once sleek and gleaming were now twisted and broken. The ground was scorched in some places, shattered in others, as if the very planet had revolted against the inhabitants. Rhea observed closely. Unlike other species, humans had a natural instinct for reading danger. She walked among the ruins, noting every detail. The scorch marks, the claw-like indentations, the patterns in the destruction. Every piece of information was crucial. "This is worse than I expected," Sloane muttered. "Whatever did this. It's smart, fast, and relentless," Rhea nodded. "And we're human. We survive in places like this. We adapt, that's our advantage. Fear is natural, but action is what makes the difference." The krill watched silently as humans assessed the scene with calm precision. It was clear to them now, humans were not ordinary creatures. They moved with confidence, observed without hesitation, and faced danger without faltering. To the fragile krill, humans were terrifying, but in a way that inspired hope. Night fell quickly on Zarathus, the glowing forests casting eerie lights across the ruined city. Humans set up a temporary base not out of fear but for strategy. While the krill huddled together, unsure and trembling, the humans organized patrols, analyzed the terrain, and began forming a plan. Rhea looked at her squad. "We don't know exactly what we're up against," she said. "But we do know one thing. Humans survive. We adapt, we think. We endure. That's what we bring to the table, and we'll use every skill, every instinct to protect these people." Her crew nodded. Their training, experience, and human resilience would be their greatest weapons. They had faced impossible odds before. They had survived where others would fall. And now, on this alien world, they would show the krill what it meant to confront danger with courage and ingenuity. As the storm raged outside, Rhea felt a thrill that only humans could feel in the face of true danger. This was not a mission for the faint-hearted. It was a mission for humans, and whatever awaited them on Zarathus, they would face it head-on. Because humans were not just survivors. They were apex survivalists, bred by struggle, shaped by adversity, and unafraid to confront the impossible. And this was only the beginning. The Iron Vulture rested on the shattered plains of Zarathus, its engine still humming softly against the alien wind. Storms danced across the horizon, streaks of lightning illuminating the towering crystal trees that glowed faintly in the dim light. The air was thick with moisture, carrying the scents of alien flora, sweet, sharp, and metallic all at once. Even for humans accustomed to Deathworlds, Zarathus was disorienting. Captain Rhea Corvin stepped onto the strange, glowing soil, boots sinking slightly into the soft, luminescent moss. She scanned the area carefully. Every sound, every movement, every subtle shift in the environment mattered. Humans had a natural instinct for danger, honed over generations of surviving planets that sought to kill them. Zarathus would test those instincts, but Rhea had no doubt. Humans could thrive here where others would fall. Lieutenant Jarek Sloane crouched nearby, his scanning devices buzzing softly. "These readings are unusual," he said. "Gravity is normal, but the magnetic fields are fluctuating. There's wildlife everywhere, but it's like nothing we've cataloged. Some of these creatures are enormous." Rhea nodded. "Stay sharp. We don't know what we're walking into, but we will. Humans survive where others fail. Let's see what these krill are dealing with." The krill arrived soon after, their fragile forms moving cautiously through the glowing jungle. Their bodies shimmered like glass, almost transparent, and their limbs were delicate yet precise. They communicated in high-pitched tones that Sloane's devices translated into trembling words. "It is relentless," whispered Litha, one of the Krill leaders. "The Shivermaw. It destroys everything. Cities, forests, families, all gone. We have tried to fight it. Our weapons fail. Our strategies are useless." Rhea studied her. She could see the terror etched into the alien's delicate features. The Krill were brilliant in their technology, but helpless against a predator that could adapt instantly. They had no survival instincts like humans did, no experience facing an enemy that defied logic. "Show us where it attacked first," Rhea said. "We'll need to see the patterns, the traces, the places it strikes. Every detail matters." The Krill led them cautiously through the glowing forest. The ground was soft and uneven, covered with a strange moss that pulsed faintly underfoot. Crystal trees reflected the stormlight in dazzling patterns, casting long shadows that danced like specters. Every rustle in the foliage made the Krill flinch. For humans, this was unfamiliar but manageable. Danger was part of life, and humans thrived in it. As they reached the ruins of a Krill city, the scale of the destruction became clear. Buildings once tall and elegant were shattered, their surfaces jagged and broken. Streets were gouged with deep scars as if the ground itself had been torn apart. The faint glow of the planet illuminated the scene, casting eerie light across the ruins. Rhea walked among the wreckage, noting every detail. Humans had an innate ability to read danger, to see patterns where others saw chaos. She crouched beside a shattered wall and examined deep claw-like indentations in the stone. These marks. The predator isn't just strong, it's intelligent. It adapts, changes its method to match the defense. Sloane adjusted his devices. "It's unlike anything we've cataloged. Its hunting patterns are unpredictable. It moves fast, smarter than most predators we've faced, and it seems to anticipate technology. Anything the Krill deploy, it counters immediately." Rhea's mind worked quickly. Humans had faced monsters before, yes, but few were as cunning as this. Still, she knew their advantage. Humans were not only strong and resourceful, they adapted. When technology failed, they could rely on instinct, strategy, and courage. That combination of intellect and physical endurance made humans extraordinary. The Krill observed quietly, their eyes wide with awe. They had never faced creatures like humans before, creatures who could move with deadly precision, think through complex threats, and face danger without hesitation. To the fragile Krill, humans were both terrifying and miraculous. Night fell swiftly over Zerathis. The glowing forest cast a surreal light across the ruins, and the wind carried faint, unsettling sounds from the jungle. Humans set up a temporary base not out of fear, but for strategy and efficiency. Tents and equipment were deployed with precision, scanners positioned and watch rotations organized. Every squad member knew their role. Every human instinct was honed for survival. The Krill huddled nearby, uncertain and overwhelmed. You are strong," Litha whispered to Rhea, her voice trembling. "Stronger than anything we imagined. But the Shivermaw, can it be stopped?" Rhea looked at the fragile alien. "We don't know yet. But humans survive. We study, adapt, and find solutions. Fear is natural, but action is what matters. We will face this. Together we will find a way." As the night deepened, Rhea and her squad patrolled the surrounding area. The glowing jungle was alive with movement. Strange creatures moved in the shadows, some enormous, some tiny but fast. Every instinct told Rhea to be alert. Every fiber of human experience prepared her for the challenges ahead. Sloane scanned a cluster of trees. "Patterns," he said quietly. "There are movement patterns. Not random. Something is stalking this area. Something intelligent." Rhea nodded. Humans could see patterns even when others could not. She crouched beside him, analyzing the faint tracks left in the soft moss. "This is more than a predator," she said. "It's calculating, it adapts. But humans adapt too. That's our strength. That's what will make the difference." The Krill watched from a distance as humans moved through the alien forest. To them it was almost unbelievable. Humans did not hesitate. Humans did not panic. Humans did not run. They observed, they planned, they acted with confidence. It was terrifying in its own way. Humans faced death and danger as if it were a tool to be understood rather than a threat to be feared. Hours passed. Storms raged in the distance, lightning striking the floating mountains, illuminating the alien landscape. Rhea returned to the temporary base, her mind already working on the next steps. We need to understand its behavior, she said. We need to see how it moves, what it fears, what it cannot resist. Humans survive by learning. Humans survive by thinking ahead. That's what we'll do. The krill listened carefully, realizing that humans had a quality they themselves lacked. It was not strength or technology alone. It was resilience, courage, and the ability to confront what others cannot. By dawn, the first patrols had returned with faint evidence of the Shivermaw's presence. Broken vegetation, strange claw marks, and tracks that defied simple interpretation. But to Rhea, every detail was a clue. Humans had an innate understanding of survival. Every scar, every pattern, every anomaly told a story that humans could read. We are not helpless, Rhea said to the krill. We are human. We adapt, we endure, and we will help you survive. The krill began to understand what that meant. Humans were terrifying in the best possible way. They did not flinch in the face of impossible odds. They could endure storms, predators, and destruction that would destroy anyone else. They were apex survivors, a living example of what it meant to endure, to think, and to act when everything else fails. And the Shivermaw, whatever it was, would soon learn why humans were feared across the stars. Because humans were not just creatures of flesh and bone. They were creatures of instinct, courage, and ingenuity, and wherever danger existed, humans thrived. The story of Zarathus was only beginning, but Rhea knew one thing for certain. In this alien world, the humans were the ones who would stand between survival and extinction, and nothing, not storms, not predators, not even fear, would stop them from facing the challenge head-on. The glowing jungle, the shattered cities, and the trembling krill all bore witness to the beginning of a human-led defense that would change the course of Zarathus forever. And somewhere in the darkness of the alien forest, the Shivermaw stirred, unaware that it was about to meet the species that feared nothing and adapted to everything. Dawn broke over Zarathus, casting the alien landscape in shades of silver and violet. The floating mountains shimmered in the weak light, and the phosphorescent forest seemed to hum with life. Captain Rhea Corvin gathered her squad at the edge of the ruined krill city. Today they would venture deeper into the jungle, the first time humans would confront the predator known as the Shivermaw. The air was thick and warm, carrying scents that made even human senses alert. Every rustle of the glowing foliage, every distant thrum of movement, signaled potential danger. Humans were not afraid but cautious. Danger was a puzzle to be solved, and Rhea thrived on puzzles. We move carefully, she said. Watch patterns, track movements, and stay aware. Remember, our strength isn't just in weapons. It's in thinking, adapting, and surviving. Lieutenant Jarek Sloan nodded. The sensors are picking up movement ahead. Something big and fast. The krill, trembling behind them, whispered among themselves. Their delicate forms flinched at every sound. We have never faced it directly, said Litha, her translucent body trembling. It hunts without reason, without mercy. Rhea crouched, observing the faint impressions left in the glowing moss. The Shivermaw was intelligent, she realized. Its movements weren't random. It tested the environment, adapted, and anticipated the behaviors of its prey. For humans, this was not impossible. They had survived death worlds filled with predators far more lethal, far more unpredictable. What others saw as terrifying, humans saw as a challenge. The squad moved silently through the glowing forest, boots careful not to disturb the soft moss. The Shivermaw's presence was almost palpable, a tension in the air, a shifting shadow that made even the light from the crystal trees seem uneasy. Rhea's senses were sharp. Humans could read danger in a way other species could not. Every broken branch, every faint track, every small footprint told a story. They entered a clearing, and for a moment everything was still. The storm clouds overhead flickered with faint lightning, illuminating the clearing for a heartbeat. Then they saw it. The Shivermaw. It was enormous, unlike any creature humans had catalogued before. Its body shimmered faintly, almost blending with the forest. Armor-like skin reflected the faint light, and multiple sensory tendrils extended from its head, scanning the environment with terrifying precision. Its movements were deliberate, intelligent, and swift. More than a simple predator, it was a hunter in the truest sense. The krill gasped, instinctively stepping back. Rhea held up a hand, signaling calm. Humans did not panic. Humans studied, adapted, and acted with strategy. Observe its behavior, Rhea whispered to her squad. Don't attack yet. Watch, understand, and plan. The Shivermaw prowled the clearing, scanning for movement. It paused, sniffing the air, sensing the humans in ways their eyes could not detect. Humans moved like shadows, adapting to the predator's awareness. They laid subtle markers, observed the creature's reactions, and took careful notes. "It's clever," Sloan said, keeping his voice low. "It notices small changes. Anything unusual triggers its attention." Rhea nodded. Humans could thrive where others would fail because of one key trait: adaptation. They could read danger, anticipate patterns, and act instinctively when a situation demanded it. The Shivermaw may be intelligent, but humans were relentless. Suddenly, the creature lunged. Its speed was startling, its reflexes sharp. The humans responded immediately, sidestepping, using the terrain to their advantage. It struck the glowing trees, which bent but did not break. The humans didn't flinch. They were humans. They had survived Deathworlds where failure meant instant extinction. "We know it hunts by observation," Rhea said calmly. "It learns, it adapts. But so do we."
"Watch how it reacts to the environment."
"We'll use that." The squad followed her lead, moving in patterns that the Shivermaw could not easily predict. They used the terrain, hiding behind crystalline trees, leaping over glowing vines, and leaving subtle false trails to test its responses. Each movement was calculated. Each decision demonstrated the human advantage, instinct honed by survival. The krill watched, awestruck. Their species had relied entirely on technology, on control and planning. But the humans moved differently. They adapted, they improvised, and they endured. To the krill, humans were terrifying in their calm confidence, their ability to confront a creature that seemed unstoppable. Hours passed. The Shivermaw observed, tested, and adjusted its hunting strategy. But humans did the same. They moved, analyzed, and adapted. Slowly, Rhea noticed a pattern in the predator's behavior. It reacted aggressively to direct confrontations, but it hesitated near terrain that was unstable or dangerous. It avoided traps that were too obvious. "This is it," Rhea said quietly. "We don't fight it head-on. We guide it. We make it act the way we want it to. Humans survive by thinking, planning, and using the environment. That's how we will win." The squad began setting subtle traps, not to harm, but to control the creature's movement. They used the glowing vegetation to their advantage, creating paths and obstacles that the Shivermaw could not easily navigate. Every step was carefully calculated. Every decision relied on human adaptability. At one point, the creature paused, sensing something unusual. Its multiple sensory tendrils quivered, scanning. Humans froze, silent, blending with the environment. The Shivermaw tested, advanced, and then retreated slightly, its curiosity and caution revealing its intelligence. "We are teaching it, without touching it," Sloan whispered. "It's learning, and so are we." Rhea smiled faintly. This was the essence of being human. Facing danger directly, learning from it, and using that knowledge to survive. Other species might panic, but humans thrived in the unknown. They embraced the challenge. As night fell, the Shivermaw retreated into the dense forest, leaving subtle marks of its passage. Humans followed carefully, noting every impression, every track. They had not fought directly, but they had understood the predator, and that understanding was more powerful than any weapon. The krill were quiet, absorbing the human strategy. We cannot do this," Litha whispered. "We would be lost. You survive because you are human." Rhea looked at her squad. They were tired but focused. "We do not survive because we are strong or fast alone. We survive because we adapt. We think, we endure. That is what makes humans extraordinary." The Shivermaw had tested them, but humans had tested it in return. They learned its patterns, its habits, and its limits. And in doing so, they prepared for the battles ahead. Before returning to base, Rhea took a moment to observe the alien forest. Every rustle, every glimmer of movement, every sound of the night carried information. Humans could read it all. Their senses, instincts, and intellect combined to give them an edge no other species could match. "Prepare for tomorrow," she said to her squad. "We've learned a lot today, but this is only the beginning. The Shivermaw is clever, but so are we. Humans survive because we never stop observing, never stop adapting, and never give up. That is how we win." The krill followed them back to the temporary base, still shaken but inspired. Humans had faced the predator directly without fear, using intelligence and instinct rather than brute force alone. The fragile aliens began to understand a new kind of courage, one born of experience, adaptation, and the will to endure. As Rhea prepared for rest, she looked toward the glowing forest, knowing the Shivermaw was still out there observing as well. But humans did not fear. They faced the unknown with calm precision, understanding that survival required strategy, courage, and the ability to adapt. The night on Zarathus was alive with hidden movements, whispers of the predator in the darkness and the soft glow of alien flora. But humans were ready. They had seen the Shivermaw, studied it, and survived its first test. They were humans, the galaxy's ultimate survivors. And no predator, no matter how intelligent, could break the human instinct to endure. Tomorrow, the true confrontation would begin. The next morning, Zarathus greeted the humans with a restless sky. Storms streaked the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the glowing forests. The air shimmered with electricity, and distant sounds hinted at life moving just beyond sight. Captain Rhea Corvin stood at the edge of the ruined city, scanning the alien landscape with keen eyes. Today, the humans would take the next step. They would confront the Shivermaw not with brute force, but with strategy, patience, and the adaptability that made humans unparalleled survivors. "Morning report," Rhea said to her squad. Lieutenant Jarek Sloan stepped forward, his scanning devices whirring. "The Shivermaw has not returned to the clearing where we first saw it, but its tracks suggest movement toward the eastern forest. Its hunting patterns are consistent but unpredictable. It avoids direct confrontation, yet it seems to test its surroundings constantly." Rhea nodded. Humans thrived on unpredictability. Where other species might panic, they analyzed. Where others hesitated, they acted. Their adaptability was unmatched, honed by generations of surviving Deathworlds. This predator may have intelligence, but humans had something equally powerful: instinct paired with reason. The krill watched from a safe distance, their delicate forms trembling. "We cannot follow it," whispered Litha. "It will destroy us if we try." "We are too weak," Rhea looked at her. "That's why we are here. Humans survive where others fail. We learn, we adapt, we endure. Today we will show you what that means." The squad moved through the glowing forest, observing and noting every trace of the Shivermaw. Broken branches, disturbed moss, and faint claw marks formed a map of the predator's behavior. Humans had a unique skill: the ability to read danger in the environment. Every subtle sign told a story. Every pattern revealed a strategy. Hours passed as they tracked the Shivermaw deeper into the forest. Rhea noticed something remarkable. Unlike other predators they had faced, this one did not rely solely on strength. It was calculating, testing its environment, learning from every interaction. But humans too could learn, quickly, intuitively, and without fear. "We need a plan," Rhea said. "Direct confrontation will not work. It adapts too fast. But humans can think ahead. Humans can guide it. We can turn its intelligence against it." The squad gathered in a small clearing to discuss strategy. They decided to use the terrain to their advantage. The glowing forest had natural features: steep cliffs, unstable crystal formations, and dense clusters of luminescent trees that could be incorporated into a controlled environment. Humans could manipulate these features in ways the predator could not anticipate, guiding it into a location where it could be contained. "This is not about fighting," Rhea explained. "It's about strategy, observation, and patience. Humans survive because we adapt. That is our greatest weapon." The krill watched, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and admiration. They had never seen such composure in the face of danger. Humans moved confidently, calculated every step, and faced the unknown without hesitation. The krill realized that human courage was not the absence of fear. It was the ability to act despite it. As the humans advanced, they began setting subtle markers and traps. These were not meant to harm the Shivermaw, but to guide its movements. Fallen branches, reflective crystals, and uneven ground formed pathways and obstacles. Every element was carefully chosen to influence the predator's behavior without direct confrontation. Rhea crouched, observing the forest floor. It reacts to patterns. It avoids obvious traps, but it cannot predict everything. We create complexity and we observe. That's how humans survive. Hours turned into an entire day of careful maneuvering. The Shivermaw moved through the forest, testing the humans' preparations. Each movement was noted, each response analyzed. Humans adapted in real time, changing paths, adjusting obstacles, and subtly influencing the predator. The krill followed from a safe distance, learning that survival was not just about strength or technology. It was about thinking, observing, and adapting. Late in the day, the Shivermaw approached a naturally enclosed area. a depression in the forest floor surrounded by dense crystal formations. It paused, sensing the humans' presence and the changes in the terrain. Humans held their positions silent and watchful. "This is our chance," Rhea whispered. "We guide it, but we do not force it. Humans survive by understanding, not by overpowering." The predator moved carefully, testing the boundaries of the depression. Each step was deliberate, intelligent, and cautious. Humans observed, noting every reaction. They were not attacking. They were learning, adjusting, and using strategy to control the situation. Sloane pointed to a cluster of crystals. "It reacts to reflections. Mirrors of light influence its movement. We can use this to guide it further." Rhea smiled faintly. Humans had an instinct for survival that extended beyond physical ability. They could manipulate, improvise, and adapt in ways no other species could. The Shivermaw may have intelligence, but humans had intuition, patience, and resilience. As night fell, the predator moved deeper into the enclosed area. The humans adjusted the environment subtly, creating pathways and subtle barriers. It tested, hesitated, and adapted, but humans anticipated each reaction. Slowly, deliberately, they guided it toward a location where it could be contained without harm. The krill observed silently, their fear giving way to awe. Humans did not rely on brute force. They relied on observation, strategy, and adaptation. That combination, Rhea knew, was what made humans capable of surviving impossible situations. Finally, the Shivermaw paused at the center of the enclosed area. Its multiple sensory tendrils quivered, testing the environment. Humans held their positions, waiting for the perfect moment. "This is it," Rhea whispered. "Everything we've learned, every adaptation, every observation, it comes together here." Humans survive by thinking, by observing, and by enduring. Watch, learn, and act when the time is right. Using the terrain and the predator's own behavior, the humans subtly nudged it into a containment field, prepared with a combination of natural barriers and krill technology. The Shivermaw paused again, sensing the change, but humans remained calm and deliberate. They guided it gently without aggression, showing the creature that humans were not just strong. They were intelligent, adaptive, and patient. As the predator entered the containment area fully, the humans breathed quietly but did not relax. This was a critical moment, a test of endurance, observation, and adaptation. Humans survived by staying vigilant, by thinking ahead, and by acting when necessary. The Shivermaw had been outmaneuvered not by force but by the human ability to adapt to the unknown. The krill were amazed. You guide it without touching it," Litha whispered. "We could never do this. You survive because you are human," Rhea nodded. "Yes, humans survive because we adapt, we endure. We observe and act when the time is right. That is how we face what others cannot. That is why humans are feared and respected across the galaxy." The Shivermaw, now contained safely, tested its new environment but could not escape. Humans had used observation, intelligence, and the environment itself to gain control. It was a victory not of force but of strategy, patience, and the human spirit. As the squad returned to their temporary base, Rhea reflected on what had been achieved. Humans had faced a predator that defied logic, adapted to its movements, and survived its first encounter. They had demonstrated what made humans extraordinary, the combination of courage, intelligence, and adaptability. The krill, once trembling with fear, now looked at humans with newfound respect. They had witnessed something extraordinary, creatures who faced death and danger with calm precision, who adapted to the impossible, and who endured where others would fail. Humans were not just survivors, they were legends. That night, as the glowing forests of Zarathus shimmered under the stormlight, Rhea and her squad rested. They had guided the Shivermaw into containment, studied its patterns, and proven the power of human ingenuity. Tomorrow they would plan the next steps, using the knowledge they had gained to ensure the safety of the krill and the balance of the planet. Humans had faced one of the galaxy's most intelligent predators and survived. They had adapted, observed, and acted with patience and skill. And in doing so, they had reminded the universe why humans were more than just flesh and bone. They were creatures of strategy, resilience, and unmatched survival instinct. The Shivermaw may have been terrifying, but humans had shown that courage, intellect, and adaptability were even more powerful. And Zarathus, once a world of fear for the fragile krill, now held the promise of hope, because humans were there. The first light of dawn broke over Zarathus, casting long shadows across the glowing forests and crystalline mountains. Captain Rhea Corvin stood at the edge of the temporary human base, observing the predator now safely contained within the enclosure they had carefully prepared. The Shivermaw moved within its boundaries, testing, sensing, and learning, but it could not escape. Humans had done more than survive. They had understood, adapted, and guided. Rhea turned to her squad. Each member bore the marks of exhaustion, but their eyes were bright with determination. They had faced the impossible, and they had prevailed, not through brute force, but through patience, observation, and the human ability to endure. "We've done more than contain it," Rhea said. "We've learned from it. Humans survive not because we are the strongest, but because we adapt. We observe, we endure. That is why we can face the impossible and still come out alive." The krill approached cautiously, their fragile forms shimmering in the early light. For the first time in days, they moved with a sense of hope rather than fear. Litha stepped forward, her delicate limbs trembling slightly. You have shown us something we never imagined," she said softly. "Your courage. Your intelligence. It is beyond what we could have hoped for. We are grateful. We will remember this," Rhea smiled. "Humans survive because we face challenges, not because we avoid them. We endure because we must, and we adapt because that is who we are. The galaxy has many dangers, but humans meet them head-on." The krill gathered around the containment area, observing the Shivermaw with awe. They had witnessed its strength, its intelligence, and its adaptability. And they had seen humans confront it calmly, strategically, and successfully. For the fragile krill, it was almost impossible to comprehend. A species that could thrive where others would perish. A species that faced the unknown and turned it into opportunity. Rhea and her squad spent the day sharing knowledge with the krill. They taught them how to observe predators, how to anticipate movements, and how to adapt strategies based on what the environment revealed. The krill absorbed the lessons quickly, their eyes wide with amazement and newfound respect. "You can survive," Rhea told them. "It is not just about strength. It is about learning, adapting, and never giving up. Humans endure because we see opportunity where others see only danger. You can too, if you remember what we have shown you." By afternoon, the humans began preparing to leave. The Shivermaw was safely contained. The krill settlements had been surveyed and strengthened, and the fragile aliens had learned principles of survival they had never considered. Rhea's squad packed their gear efficiently, a combination of experience and instinct guiding their every move. As they boarded the Iron Vulture, Litha approached once more. "You are extraordinary," she said. "We will tell stories of you. We will remember your courage. Your people, humans. You are beyond what we imagined," Rhea nodded. "Humans survive because we endure, because we adapt, because we act when others hesitate. That is who we are. Remember that and your species will thrive." The ship lifted off, gliding above the glowing forests and shattered cities. Below, the krill waved, their fragile forms radiant in the alien sunlight. They had been changed by the humans' presence. What had once seemed impossible, facing the Shivermaw, defending their world, surviving a Deathworld predator, was now something they believed they could achieve. Humans had shown them that survival was not just about technology or strength. It was about mind, spirit, and courage. In the quiet of the ship, Rhea reflected on what they had accomplished. Humanity was remarkable not because it conquered by force, but because it thrived in adversity. Where other species might falter, humans endured. Where others hesitated, humans acted. They had survived the impossible, and in doing so, they had changed the course of Zarathus forever. The krill had learned more than survival techniques. They had learned the philosophy of humans. To endure, adapt, and face fear head-on. The fragile aliens would rebuild, stronger and wiser, because humans had shown them a path they had never known existed. "Do you think it will be safe now?" Sloane asked, looking back toward the glowing forest. "For now," Rhea replied. "But safety is never guaranteed. Survival is about preparation, observation, and adaptation. The krill now understand that. And humans will always face challenges. That's who we are." As the Iron Vulture rose into the atmosphere and prepared for hyperspace, the crew shared a quiet moment. They had faced one of the galaxy's most intelligent predators and survived. They had guided it, studied it, and used their instincts to turn a dangerous situation into a controlled one. Humans had endured not just by strength, but by ingenuity, patience, and courage. Below, the krill began repairing their cities. They moved differently now, inspired by the humans' approach to danger. They built structures with new awareness, set up safe zones, and observed patterns in their environment with care. Humanity had left a lasting mark, not through conquest but through example. Humans were respected and admired, terrifying and inspiring in equal measure. Rhea watched the planet shrink beneath them as they jumped into hyperspace. She knew that other worlds, other challenges awaited, but that was the nature of being human. No matter the threat, no matter the unknown, humans adapted. Humans survived. Humans endured. And humanity's reputation as the galaxy's ultimate survivors was well earned. The Krill would tell their story for generations. They would remember the courage, the intelligence, and the endurance of humans. And the universe itself had witnessed the power of a species that thrived in the impossible. As the stars streaked past in hyperspace, Rhea smiled. Zarathus had been a test, a world that seemed impossible to navigate, a predator that seemed unbeatable, and fragile beings who needed guidance. Humans had succeeded not by weapons or force alone, but by using every human advantage: observation, adaptation, courage, and endurance. The Shivermaw, contained but still intelligent, would continue to test the Krill, but now they were not helpless. Humans had given them the knowledge, the courage, and the perspective to survive. And in doing so, humans had reinforced what the galaxy already knew: that humanity was a force of adaptability, resilience, and unmatched survival instinct. The Iron Vulture carried its crew to the next challenge. Leaving behind a world transformed, Zarathus was no longer just a planet of fear. It was a planet of hope, guided by human example. And the story of humans, the apex survivalists of the galaxy, would continue to inspire awe, respect, and even a little fear wherever life thrived. Because humans were more than strong. They were courageous, intelligent, adaptable, and enduring. They faced the impossible, and they thrived. And that, Rhea knew, was the true legacy of humanity.